So Epic Games just hosted a pretty interesting live stream focused entirely on AI inside of Unreal Engine 5.8 and the new MCP plugin. But unlike most of Epic's presentations, this wasn't publicly streamed on YouTube. Instead, it was part of Epic's education office hours hosted through Zoom. Technically, anyone could register or attend, but because of the format, a lot of Unreal Engine developers probably didn't even know it was happening. The session was titled Epic Games Education Office Hours Unreal Engine MCP Plugin 5.8, and it goes pretty in-depth into how Epic is currently experimenting with MCP, connecting AI tools to Unreal Engine, and what developers can actually do with this technology in UE 5.8. Now, I've already been covering Unreal Engine MCP plugin, and so I figured this presentation might be extremely interesting for some of you guys to see. So I recorded the entire session. Rather than cutting it down, I'm uploading the full presentation so you can hear directly from them and see everything they demonstrated and discussed. And if you don't want to sit through the entire live stream, I also will be uploading a separate video where I'll break down and summarize the most important things that Epic has showed and talked about, so keep an eye out for that video. But for those who want to see absolutely everything, here's the full Unreal Engine 5.8 MCP Education Office Hours session from Epic Games.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August edition of our Epic Games Education Office Hours. My name is Jamie Hercom, and I'm from the Epic Games Education Learning and Training team. For everyone who's just joining us today, if this is your first office hours, just so you know, this is something that our education team does on a monthly basis so we can connect to our education, learning, and training community. And I would say that this session for August is actually pretty exciting because we're actually trying out this new format. With the release of Unreal Engine 5.8, we want to cover all the amazing new features and updates with a more technical demo style session. So hopefully you all feel comfortable with the tools and with the updates. And what a way to enter into this new era of office hours with none other than the new 5.8 experimental MCP plugin. That stands for Model Context Protocol plugin. Just so you know, one housekeeping item, the Q&A is open in this webinar. So if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to put them into the Q&A. And we have a great team here today working behind the scenes to answer as many of your questions as possible. And near the end, we're going to save about 10 minutes of time to try to get some questions addressed live as well. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's session, Sam Diter, who is a senior Unreal Engine instructor here at Epic Games. And Sam is going to be maybe your entrance point, maybe your guide to the new MCP plugin. So Sam, please take it away. Thanks for doing this today.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for the great intro, Jamie. As you said, my name is Sam Diter. I am going to be your instructor for the next about 40 minutes, and we are going to be covering getting started with MCP. Now, I am going to disable my video because it helps my internet while I'm doing this. So let's go ahead and get started with the first slide. So we can watch this now. You can try and follow along. However, if you're unable to get everything working, that's okay. This will be repeated, and there'll be some classes coming out about it, so don't worry about it. A couple of things you do need to know beforehand. This does only work with Unreal Engine 5.8. We're going to be using the third-person template as an example, and you don't actually need to do anything else. All the things that you need to run MCP with the Unreal Engine are included with the 5.8 download. You do need to bring your own coding agent, whether that be Claude, which is what's going to be shown on the screen today. There's 5 clients supported, and towards the end, we are going to talk a little bit about that. So for the next about 40 to 45 minutes, there's 4 segments. The first one is what Unreal MPC actually is. We're going to set up a MCP from scratch. Then we're going to talk about first prompts and spawning something. And then we'll do limits debugging and where to go next. So what it actually is. So basically, MCP is a server that runs inside of your inside of the editor, and your agent talks to it. And this server can interact with the editor much in a similar way that you interact with the editor. When you right click on something or you drag something from the content browser into the scene, the MCP can actually do these agents or do these processes just like you. One of the other things to remember is that this is experimental, so use it with caution. Unreal 5.8 is the first release of this, and Epic is really working on these tools, so these tools are not going to be going anywhere. The big thing to watch out with when using something that is experimental is that things could drastically change. API functionality could be added, it could be deprecated, it could be renamed or removed. So it's great to use it now to figure out how it works and how it can improve your workflow and do things inside of the editor. If you are going to use it to ship stuff, then make sure you are staying on 5.8 and not going to another version, or you might risk losing some type of functionality or something like that. So again, it is experimental. That doesn't mean that it's not being worked on. It means that it's actually being heavily worked on, and because of that work, things will change. So if you're building your foundations on this version, you need to stick with this version because we can't guarantee how things are going to progress in the future. Now, a couple of things that you need to understand about MCP. First off, the MCP plugin that we will enable actually has no tools of its own. It's just a way to get Unreal and your AI agent to talk back and forth to one another. There are then the tool registry and the tool sets, the tool set registry, and various tool sets. So the tool set registry is a basic list of simple things that you can enable to interact with the editor. And then as you want to get more and more specific, there are more specific tools that you can enable that work specifically with different parts of the editor. And the reason for this is that your MCP tools can actually grow and very, very large, and we want to try to keep as few tools active as possible. So let's go ahead and talk about setup. Now, one thing that is missing from the online documentation is that there's actually 3 plugins to enable and not 2. So the first thing we need to do is I'm actually going to come over here to my launcher here, and I'm just going to launch the editor so it will come up. So I'm going to make a new project, and when that does come up, we're going to go to the plugins tab. We're going to enable the plugins that we need. Then we're going to need to restart the editor. And then once we do that, there's going to be this MCP auto start functionality that we need to enable. So let me pull this over here. So I'm going to go to new projects, select third person, call this MCP, leave everything else completely default, blueprint, desktop, maximum, variant, none, and create. So let's let that create. The next thing after we enable our plugins, we need to have this auto start MCP on startup. This way, the MCP server that talks to our agent will start up every single time. If not, we'll have to run a command to start it. Once we've done that, we will then need to configure it using a console command here. And then I'll show you how we can launch the agent from our project folder to start interacting with stuff. So let's go to this way. So plugins to enable. The 3 plugins will be Unreal MCP, all tool sets, and then editor tool sets. So let's come here and we're going to come up to edit plugins. And first off, we're going to look for MCP. And there we go. There's our Unreal MCP. All right. And then we're going to look for tool set. And we wanted the, hold on, let me just double check. We wanted the editor tool set. There we go. Editor tool set. Yes. And the other one was called all tool sets. So let's just look for all tool sets. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and hit yes. And then we're going to restart. The reason we actually need to restart is the next part. So there's our Unreal MCP, the editor tool set. and we're getting to this part right here, this model context protocol won't actually be enabled inside of our editor preferences until we restart. So that's why we wanted to restart right now. So I'm going to close this. We're going to come up here to Edit Editor Preferences. And then if we come down here, we're going to see our model context protocol. And we want this auto start server. I'm going to go ahead and enable that right there like so. And then let's just pop back over here to our presentation. All right, so what we want to do is, let me just come over to my notes here really quick so I can get the copy of this. Or I can actually show you how to do this in the editor. So let's pop back over to the editor, and we're going to close this, and I'm going to open up my output log here, and we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to say model. And there we go. There's our model context. And we want this model context start server. If I press enter, you're going to see here, I get this data transmitted via this plugin to your LLM service provider. And that's important to see because that means that it actually has started right there. So we can see that it has started. Now that it's started, the other thing that we need to do is we need to set up our client config for the provider that we're using. So in our case, this is going to be set up to Claude Code. Now, it can be set up for Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code, Gemini, or Codex. And to set this up, very, very simple. All you need to do here is, again, we're going to look for model. And if I could spell that right, model context. And we want our model context generate client config. And we're going to do Claude Code. And I'm just going to press enter. And that's going to make our MCP JSON file that we need in order to interact with Claude Code. So we can see that that is right there. And let me just move that up. So there we go. Again, we've generated it. It will show that it has been successfully written. And then we are on to the next part of launching our agent. So we want to launch our agent from our actual project root. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to hit Control Space to bring up my project browser. I'm going to right click here on my folder. And then from there, I'm going to go Show and Explorer. And then I'm going to come over to my content, MCP, and then I'm going to right click. And what I want here is I want PowerShell open here as administrator. And all I need to do now is type in Claude and give it a second here. And it says, new MCP server found within this project, Unreal MCP. So I want to use this server. And so now that's working. So now let me see. Connector do I have? And we'll give this a second here. And this is what you're going to spend a lot of your time doing, is just kind of waiting for it. And although this is probably a complete waste of tokens because it's something very, very simple, let's just make sure that it works before we go on to doing something a little more complicated. So you have SM cylinder selected. So that is right. Okay, perfect. So now let's just kind of recap what we did. I'm going to back up here in my presentation because we might have gone a little bit quickly. But again, it's ridiculously easy to set this up. So again, first off, we needed to enable the Unreal MCP plugin and all of its tool sets, right? That's done by going to the editor plugin, and then we enabled the Unreal MCP all tool sets, and the editor tool set. Without these enabled, you will start and you might be able to get it to attach to your project, but it won't actually be able to do anything. It'll keep saying like, I can't see your project or can't interact with your project. Again, Unreal MCP, editor toolset, and all editor tools need to be selected. Then we need to go and restart the editor. And once we've done that, we need to open up our editor preferences and look for our model context protocol. Now, if you don't restart, you will not see model context protocol because you haven't enabled the MCP plugin, so this will not show up in the editor preferences. Once that auto start is enabled here, you just need to do it one time. This means that every time we try to start the project, it's automatically going to start the server for us. One of the other things to note, the server port number here is 8000, which is kind of like the default port for everything. If you're running multiple projects or multiple agents, you're going to want to switch that number there. We can start the server by hand by typing in model context protocol.start server if you want to. But we've already saved it to start automatically by pressing that checkmark box. Then we need to generate our model context protocol client config. You can do all. If you're not sure which one that you need to do, go ahead and do all. That's not going to affect you in any way, shape, or form. That'll just generate all of them. If you do know that, I use, for example, I use Claude Code, so I use the Claude Code. Now you need to set this up one time per project and only one time. So once you've done that, you're going to see that the model context protocol generate client config Claude Code has been successfully written, and it'll show you where that was written to. And then we open up the agent like so. So we let's come back to our project here. So again, to get the agent into this project, I right-clicked here. I went Show in Explorer. Let me bring the Explorer back on over here. Went to my MCP and just right-clicked inside of here. We're going to go Show More Properties, and we're going to go PowerShell. And then I opened up my PowerShell, which we can see is right here. So we can do something else like spawn 10 cubes. Color. Lights. 10 at 0, oops, 0, 0, 100. All right, give this a second to do its thing, and we'll come back over here. So again, that's it. We enable our 3 plugins, restart, make sure that we have our MCP server start on launch, write our config, and then connect our agents. Now, if it doesn't work, here's a couple of things that you can check to see if you've actually done things correctly. So these are kind of like the most common things that could prevent this from working. No Unreal tools offered. The agent was launched somewhere other than the folder holding your mcp.json file. So remember, this is our project right here. The reason I need to launch the PowerShell window from here is because it's looking for this MCP file. So if it says, there's no tools offered, make sure you're launching it from that right folder. Launch the editor first and the agent second, or reconnect the MCP from your agent once the editor is up. So again, we want to make sure that we run the editor first, and then we launch the MCP once we have done that. Again, the server never started. Make sure that you are looking at the output log to see if there is a conflict between server ports, and then just adjust the port. So like you might have 2 things running on port 8000, so you might want to run it on port 801 or 8001. Let's say that it's connected, but it can't do anything. Now, if you follow the online documentation, this might be the issue that you ran into, where everything is set up, but you go to say select something and it's like, yeah, I can't do that, or it isn't actually seeing anything in your project. It's because the editor tool set is not enabled, and that is not in the online documentation. So the server's fine, but it's just nothing is registered as a set of tools for it to actually use. Okay, so check on the time here. All right, we are good. Our first prompt here. So again, I showed you what I had, what I did before. Let me just pop back over here into the editor. Let's see what happened. Put it. I think it. Did it say that? Oh, it's not done yet. See, it says it's still generating. So that's why. So what can you do with this? I mean, oh man, there is uh, uh so much. It's hard to express like how awesome this tool actually is. Let me ask it as, are you done? I don't think so. Oh, there they are. Okay, that's why. 100's a little bit smaller in this level than I thought. So let me just hide this really quick. Ah, there we go. And I think it put the lights inside. Yeah, see, like it put the lights inside the cubes. So let's actually fix this and say, so it'll move them up. There we go. There's one. There's the other one. There's the other one. And then, well, if I play, it's actually not going to show any of that. So let's say, let's do this. Let's see. What is this at 200? So we'll say 300. And it's off screen, so you can't see what I'm doing. So and obviously what I'm doing here is pretty simple. Like you could click and do this yourself, and get a similar result, but this is just kind of to have a demonstration of what you can do. So let's see here some other cool things. Let me let this finish. So there we go. We can see it's bringing the stuff up for me. There we go. That looks pretty cool. All right, so let's play this. Cool. Got multicolored characters, so that's looking pretty cool. The other cool thing I can do is let's do this. So you put a box. Oops, and I spelled characters wrong. It doesn't really mind about spelling. You can also see my horrible, know my horrible deep shame that I'm a horrible speller. So while that does that, a couple of things to think about. When you enable the MCP tools, your agent is actually going out and interacting with a variety of tools. That's why previously when I showed you in the plugins, there are tool sets for blueprints and animations and things of that nature. So when you are using this, keep that in mind, that if all of a sudden it can't do something, it might be because you need to enable that particular plugin. Also, your agent can only do one thing at a time. So try and keep your instructions very simplistic in a similar way that I was saying, okay, move it up 300 units after getting it to get the lights to move from inside of the box. The reason we want to do something like this is we don't want to overwhelm it and have it miss things. If something goes wrong, it's probably because the prompt had an error inside of it. You really need to make sure that your prompts are well thought out, because setting the wrong prompt can greatly impact how successful the agent is actually going to be. So if you say something like, let's add a box, and I'm going to show you with this example here, with the character's head here. So it says, no character exists in the level. It only spawns at runtime. How should I add the box? So we're going to add it to just the BP player character. And if I would have said something like, I want you to add a box to the third person player's character's head, instead of just, I want you to add a box to the player's head, giving it the agent a very specific instruction on what you want it to do is super important. So we've done this with the lights here, and we're coming up to do it with the player. So it's here. Let me pull this back over on screen so you can see here. And the other cool thing about all of this stuff, while this is kind of working its way here, there we go. There's my character here. See if I can play it. Looks like it did not do what I wanted it to do. Well, oh, I know why. It's in game mode, and it's right here. I was like, I could see a box, but so I'm gonna delete that really quick, and we're gonna do this another way. Yeah. We're gonna ask him to do it to the third person character instead of the placed version. And while it does that, one of the other things is, notice that I did delete what it placed there, but if I hit Control Z, it will come back, and eventually it will actually disappear. And the reason I want to bring this up is that the AI agent isn't actually doing anything that you cannot do inside of the editor. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that this is also a really great way to help explore the editor or understand how things are done or why things are done. You can always ask the AI, why did you do something, or why did you set something up in this particular way, to figure out why it set it up. And it's a really good learning tool to learn about how to set things up inside of the editor. And let's see here. I've got still waiting here. So it's got it all. Edit the BP third person character blueprint itself instead, removing the place instance and switching the approach. So notice how I went from, I wanted to put a box on the character's head. That wasn't specific enough, right? I need to be very, very specific about what blueprint or what object I wanted to interact with. And the more specific I get, the better my overall outcome with my agent is going to be. So speaking of that, here are some habits that you should get into. So these are 4 things worth doing every time. name things exactly. So the player start, not over there. Real names beat descriptions every time. So, the object that I have selected, or, this thing isn't working in the second level, that is very ambiguous and it's going to have a hard time. So it's better to say the static mesh or the actor that I have selected isn't spawning correctly. One of the other things too is make sure you do one task per prompt. So instead of, when I select the character blueprint in game, it is not spawning. Also, the flowers don't interact with the bugs when the game is running. Let's say that you notice those two completely random bugs. While they're both legitimate bugs, they are still two separate tasks. So make sure that you have the AI do one thing at a time, and you'll be more successful. Ask before you tell. Ask the AI what is inside of the level. Ask it what it is doing. Also, ask one thing that I always ask AI is, do you understand my intent? AI can and will make assumptions, so you need to make sure that both you and the AI agent are on the same page in terms of what is being requested, or what work you want done. Finally, read it before you accept it. AI is always going to want to write a plan. It will try to jump straight to writing code. It can be very eager to do that, but it will also always write a plan. You need to make sure you read the plan thoroughly before you accept it. 9 times out of 10, the reason something didn't get implemented correctly is because the AI misunderstood your intention and built it according to plan, but it was according to the plan where maybe it had a slight misunderstanding or something like that inside of it. So let me check the time here. Or we got plenty of time. So limits and where to go next. So what it can't do yet. So it's only on your machine. There's no authentication layer, no loopback origins. It doesn't. Nothing is exposed beyond your machine. So you can't have this, do some work on somebody else's machine from my machine. This only works inside of the editor right now. So if you're trying to do something inside like a shipping game, that's not really how this, or what this tool set can be used for. MCP resources and prompts aren't advertised by any shipping tool set today. So again, you cannot use these in a shipping project. They're all for offline editor only tool sets. All right. So another important thing is to understand where to find issues should you need to debug. So the best place to look is going to be the output log. Right here inside of our output, we're going to see actually what the tool has done. So you can see here this logging model context protocol. So it got the bounce. Oh yeah, let's check. There's the block above my head. So it did that. But I want to bring it down so that it obstructs the player's face. So let's do that really quick while we look at the other thing. So, all right, so let's give that a second here. You can also raise the verbosity of the log. If you do a log and then log model context protocol verbose. It'll give you a bunch of information. Right now, it just gives you a little bit, but you can actually have it give you a ton of information. If you're still stuck, there is the MCP inspector. This is the official debugging client call, and we'll show you every advertised tool and let you invoke it directly, bypassing your agent entirely. I have not actually had to use the MCP inspector at all. It's there if you need it, but I've never run into needing to use it for anything, and I've been using these tools for a fair few number of months now. The ship tools aren't the ceiling. I'm just kind of showing you this for awareness. You can make your own tools for this. You can expose your own things either through Python modules or C++. If you are using Claude Code, you can have Claude Code make it so that certain functionality that maybe isn't exposed right now is exposed specifically for your version of the editor. There's really unlimited amounts of things that you can do if you hook this up with Claude Code. Just to show you one of the other things, let's see if this thing is done here. And then I've got two things that I want to show you. So, and this is coming along. So let's give this just a second. In the meantime, while it does that, because we're about to come to the end of my part of my presentation, I want to see if we've got any questions here.
Oh, do we ever?
Okay, Ed, let's ask some questions. So
Okay, I am just so I think this is a good question to answer. I was trying to type it out, but somebody wrote in chat here. I'm just finding it. What could it's saying? Oh yes, can it create materials, VFX, work with Blueprint AMIs, make a small game, or are there limits? Now, do you want to answer?
yeah, let me just close this. So we saw that. Let me bring something up here really quick.
So I think what's interesting is if anyone's seen this, you've probably seen that there are Claude codes where you can go away and you can type in make me Minecraft the game, and you have
Make me
videos of it
GTA 6.
coming back, and it's a complete game. Now, I, I don't want to say that that's setting the bar too high, but it's not. It's going to have trouble. It's going to have trouble doing anything like that. There are just in a real game, especially when you're using a game engine like this, there are too many choices. There are too many small, complicated sort of odds and ends which sort of need to be brought together. Where if you're working and you let it decide what engine to use and stuff like that, it can go away and do a hell of a lot with those. But you'll find it difficult. It'll work really well if you wanted to do something specific, if you wanted to look at a blueprint or appraise something or work with that, depending on which model you're using, it can do that. But it's not going to go away and create an entire game sort of off the cuff and you leave it alone for it to check itself. It doesn't have that recurrence loop and the wealth of pre-made game databases that are out there to do it. Sorry, Sam, do you want to take a punt
Yeah,
at that one?
no.
It's a
You
good question.
you gave it was a great question and kind of a lead way to what I'm showing right here. So this is my example project. You play in a Waffle House, and you like can cook food, like put something on the grill here. So I made this all with Claude. So there's the patty, and then oh no, I dropped it on the floor. The health inspector didn't see that. I'm gonna come over here and I'll get like a bun. Put the bun on. Oh yeah. Oh, I picked that up. Forgot it's got to go on a plate. No, they're not gonna like that.
So could you talk through a little bit of how your
So this was
process of
all
making
made,
this?
and then let me just put that on there. There we go. What it is this is my because I saw this as a question. So even though I was using the terminal here, this was just kind of the easiest way to explain to people how to get this up and running. I'm using actual Visual Studio Code with the Claude Code plugin enabled inside of it. So what I have done here is basically made an entire game using Claude Code and the editor. Now, someone said, can I use materials? Yes, you can. So when I come here, right, and do this like outline here, right, that is this material. It's an outline material, but one of the things that you have to understand is, for example, in Unreal, behind the scenes, the reason you want to use the material editor is because it goes out to all the different platforms. It also has some built-in optimizations that do like material folding and things like that for some behind the scenes optimization. When I worked with it to build that outline, it did make the material, but it tried to make the entire material using HLSL, which, while that is valid, that's not a valid way to work with the material editor, only in very, very limited and extreme cases where you know that this code is valid and it does something that is not supported by the standard material nodes. In that case, I had to actually physically go back in and tell it like, hey, no, I don't want you to make this with HLSL. I need you to make this with the material nodes. Everything that you've seen in here, I had the Claude coding agent help me build. So it took the game's animation sample in there, it brought it in, it helped me set that up. This is all local networking multiplayer. So as you saw, I had a client and a server on there. So it does the client server interface. Let me see what else. It wrote the animation blueprint. Now I don't use, the game makes use of blueprints, but I don't use blueprints. Like I have it write C++ code, and then I just use the blueprints to control. Like you'll notice there's nothing inside my event or my construction graphs. I just have use them as containers to like adjust how it looks and pull them into the world. You can do it either way. I just chose to have it work this way because it works a little bit better in my opinion. So that answers that question, I think, about using a code editor like this. You just come here and you just do a file, and then you open folder, and you open your project folder. Like, so I opened the test this folder, and then from there I typed in like, what can you see about my project? So I am actually going to go ahead and stop sharing here. And Ed has something that he would like to talk to you about. So there we go.
Let me fire up this presentation. Let me see if I can get it open.
So while that there's another question just popped up. It says, will MCP be available for Unreal Engine for Fortnite? You can actually use Python, and there is a way to get your Python and Visual Studio to work like MCP, but it uses Python commands. If you look up UEFN and MPC, you'll there's a little tutorial out there about it.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Sam. That was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend going and watching the Unreal Engine, the State of Unreal. They have a section in it where they'll run through a number of different examples of elements that you can do in using the MCP. And on the right hand side, you can see the terminal as it's going on whilst they're actually processing it. So it's quite nice to be able to see different use cases for it. That I find very useful. What I wanted to talk about, I tried to field as many questions as I could in chat, but unfortunately it got a little on top of me. But what I did want to talk about is we have been looking at Claude Code here. And Claude Code is an amazing model and it's an amazing system. But as you may know, there are plenty more out there, and I've been in the process of benchmarking them. Now, this is still new, and there is so much that is being improved on a day-to-day basis. We're going to publish this as a course ultimately, but we're just waiting for the engineers to say yes, this is a point where if you write a course, it's not going to change. So it's not going to change so much, but this is valid and working for us at the moment. I would like to talk a little bit about using other tools though, because they perform differently. Now, there are multiple different harnesses and there are multiple different models that you can see out there, and you're going to have a different experience with different models. And Claude is pretty premium, I would say. Is it still the most expensive one, Sam, or is anything beating it?
I haven't had a chance to test this yet, but I mean, like I do everything, even though my thing was set up here to like Claude, Opus, extra high, I run actually everything on Sonnet, million context, because the context window is the most important thing. Like the million context is what really is the big thing here.
Yeah, totally. And that is one of the issues that we are aware of. Now, where the MPC is put together, which differs from a lot of other MPCs out there, is we have exposed so much to the MPC that it is too much in a lot of cases, and it blows out the context size on a lot of the harnesses and a lot of the models, just because of the amount of functionality that is added and part of Unreal. To expose it straight away is quite costly. Now, there are numerous different harnesses that I have worked with that have been quite interesting. Now, if you so is this the problem in 3 steps? What the server sends, our server is going to our describe tool set, which is what a model will go away and look at in order to figure out what is in the tool set. For things like materials are 2,000 to 26,000, and for Niagara it's almost $250,000. Now, a lot of the time, different harnesses and different models will either have too small a context window for it, or they will truncate them, which means that it basically is going to take out a lot of the data that it needs in order to use the engine well. Now, the problem with this is it's not going to tell you. It will tell you, but if you're like me and most people who use AI, you do not read through the war and peace that it creates every time that it goes away and writes something. But what it will do is it will take forever and it will cost you a fortune. Because what it is going to do is it's going to try and figure it out itself by trial and error in a lot of cases. Now, most of my testing, I have been using a service called Klein, a harness, which allows me access to multiple different models. So, for example, DeepSeek is one that I've been using because they have a new model out. It's brilliant, but they all are these days. But it is a fraction of the price of Claude. So for the reality, I wanted to make sure that this model was working. And it was not. Well, it did. It tried to, but it could not read I think it was the harness which was the problem, but it didn't have enough of a context window, and it truncated it in order to change it. Now, you should be able to diagnose this if you're working with the tool and you're doing a simple, like almost DeepSeek, when I fix the problem, would make a material in 1 minute. So if you are not seeing a simple activity like making a material in 1 minute, you are probably having a problem with the MCP that you're unable to use it through the harness that you're doing. Now, you can always take the output of it and throw it into another AI chat, ask it to read it and ask it why it's taking so long. And it will probably come to the same conclusion, that it basically the MCP is too big. Now, for a stopgap, what I've done is I have created a PDF along with a download of a smaller registry. It's not actually a smaller registry. What it is it is divided up. So we have a small enough version which can then point you at different like depending on what you want to do, it'll point you to broken down versions, so you can still get not most of the context and the functionality that you need, but it's small enough that pretty much any assistant can work with it. So if you would like that, this QR code, take a photo of it, should be a PDF guide, and do stick up a question in the thing if there's something wrong with this, but it should be a PDF guide that will walk you through how to regenerate the MPC files so that it reads it, and then it will create a smaller one for you. So you have to go away and go through all of the steps that you had before. I mean, it walks you through it in the PDF, but if you are using another harness and you're having real issues with it, this should be the guide that will walk you through how to get it fixed. Now, I've been talking with product, and they've got a number of different ideas to fix this. They're looking at some kind of search functionality that the system can do so that you can just query a very small section rather than having to read the entire thing into context. So please try that. But again, we strive to work with everything. So whatever model that you're looking to work with, we are model agnostic. So we will, it's not that you've got to use Claude. The just unfortunate thing is the majority of our testing and the majority of our sort of internal working has been on Claude.
But we are a device agnostic company, so you can run it with a local MCP as well. So somebody asking about that, and I see a lot of questions about token usage in here. So it's only going to be as good as your plan. So if you have kind of like, hey, what's wrong with my project? Like that's going to burn a ton of tokens. If you have it, this, Cine Camera 1 shows a significant drop in FPS. What changes have taken place over the last like 6 check-ins that could possibly cause this? That would burn less tokens and give you better results. And then a couple of other people had some questions about here. Like somebody asked, could I use this to like select a bunch of material nodes and add a prefix to them? Yeah, it's really great for like work that. So here's another great example. Inside of Unreal, you can do concatenations of little information. So you can like, let me find all static meshes that are plus or minus like 1,000 vertices, and you can put that into your content browser as a complex expression, and it will find that stuff for you. And then you can run, like your level of detail operations. You can tell Claude Code to actually do that and then run the LOD operation on it for you. So you could say, hey, Claude Code, I need you to go through my project, find all actors that are 1,000 or less vertices, and make sure that they have at least one level of detail on them. Give me a list. And then once you see that list, you can say, okay, with this list, now make sure that you do that to all of the actors. So Ed, go ahead. Sorry.
I totally forgot to share my screen. I've been like talking you guys through slides, which I had not had. I'm really sorry. This is the QR code, so I'm sorry about that. This should give you the guide that will take stuff away. I'll I think I described it pretty well, so I don't think you've missed much from the rest of the slideshow. But sorry, that was my mistake there. The other thing I would say is like writing skills and stuff. So some people have mentioned it, like deciding how you want the project to work. Like the concept that you don't need to know how to make a game because an AI will just do it anymore is like AI is great at getting you 90% of the way there for a lot of things. But the problem is like you really want it's so useful to have a foundation in knowing how you want a project set up and so useful to understand how these things are put together so that you can actually tell it how the project should be put together and putting a guide in so for the instructions to the system that of like how you want your materials made, where you want blueprints and stuff and everything going and how you want the game to work is going to mean that it might add to some of the context, but it's going to be so much easier to get the output that you're actually hoping for. So
Ed, I think there's something wrong with your link too, by the way.
is damn it. So no, I thought I tested it.
Well, one person says the link works fine, but a couple other people said it didn't.
Maybe limited from somewhere else. And we'll see if we can get it sent out at I don't know. Jamie, is there anything we can do? Or...
Yeah, when we send everyone, again, the recording, we can make sure, I mean, two things. I think we will send out this PDF, make sure you all have it. And then additionally, we have had so many questions here today, like an influx of questions. So what I think would also be valuable, because this is a Zoom webinar, the beautiful thing is we get to save all of these questions and we can do something like akin to an FAQ with the most frequently asked questions, write them out in case we didn't get to yours. Again, like I love the attendance turnout for this, but it's also, there's been so many questions. I want to say there's been like 178 questions, so it's hard to keep track, but we'll make sure get the best questions, the most frequently asked, put them, send out the recording, Ed's file, and then also some Q&A would be amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And
it's evolving. This is moving really fast. It's like everything with AI.
The tools are extraordinarily powerful. Like I see a lot of people asking questions like, is it possible to create blueprints or debug blueprints or things like that? And yes, that is all possible. But also think about a better way to use this is to also help you structure your project in a proper way. Because a lot of times, actually, what happens with blueprints is somebody makes something in Blueprint and then they give it to like a gameplay programmer or a network programmer or probably more likely a gameplay programmer. And the gameplay programmer then takes what they've made and converts parts of that into actual C++ code so that it will run faster, or converts the entire thing into C++ once it's done.
It does some very odd things though, like blueprints. If you ask it to do anything that's like a timer thing, it'll never use like a timeline. It will just create 150 delays and things like that. Different models do different things, but it is.
And like that's why I used Claude for my game or for my example. And like one of the first things that I did is I set up a build pipeline and C++ code checking to check for event tick. So if it ever tries to use event tick when I do a build, it throws an error. I didn't actually know how to set that up before. I had Claude walk me through setting it up. So it can also help you do things that you just didn't know how to do before. Like I've got part of Horde set up and working for like automated testing and a bunch of other things that I had heard about and read about, but had no idea how to even begin setting that stuff up despite reading the documentation and things of that, because it's just completely out of my area of expertise and it can set all of that stuff up for you. If you can think of it at this point, like it can pretty much do it. And I will say that I'm not sure how many tokens I've spent, but the most token spend I have was when I hooked up Blender to an MCP.
Yeah. I would say, like, if you want to do heavy coding with the MPC, it's still worth going into C++ because it's Unreal just has so much more training data than what it has with blueprints. So it can do blueprints, but stuff for C++ is it's just so much better.
Or Python. It's really good at doing Python.
Python, but Python's not the game tool. It doesn't really run at runtime. Python is more used for controlling the editor. It's
I would say Python is good for building, like using your large language model and Python for building stuff in the editor. There are when you get into some very specific animation stuff, there are some things that it actually can't do from the MCP tools, and you have to use Python to do it. You have to run some Python commands.
Yeah, someone talked about animations, and animations I think is definitely a good case because it's something that's very hard to languagely type into something, and it require visual models. It's like it can do sequencer stuff, it can set up control rigs, it can do a lot of stuff to do with animation, set up an animation blueprint, but generating an actual animation, it's just
no,
too
it can't.
big
It
an
can't.
ask.
Yeah, it can't do that right now. So all right, looks like we're at time. So that is it. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So Jamie, take it away.
Hey guys, sorry to wrap it up. But once again, to everyone who joined us today, this is kind of a new thing that we're trying with office hours. Again, something that is like more technical, demo, open Q&A with some of our amazing instructors on the training team, including Ed, including Sam. Thank you guys so much for your time today. Again, we want to cover more Unreal Engine 5.8 features in the future. This could include MetaHuman updates to animation workflows, sequencer, and more. So like keep an eye out. We do this every single month. Everyone will be getting access to the recording after this, some Q&A, and Ed's beautiful guide shared via QR code here. We'll make sure everyone has access to that. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, guys. Sam, Ed, you're awesome. And we'll see you at the next one when we cover some other cool new crazy feature. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.